Welcome to Women in B2B Marketing, a show where CMOs, VPs of marketing, and all strong women leaders in B2B discuss their top tactics, strategies, and tips for building high-performing teams, leveraging trends, and ultimately rocking their marketing careers. Made by and for women, insightful for all. I'm your host and 15-year B2B marketer, Jane Serra. Let's dive in. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Women in B2B Marketing. I know I say I'm always excited for our guests, but I'm especially pumped today. We have Kacie Jenkins, the SVP of Marketing at Sendoso, a good friend of mine, and most recently, I would say the queen of LinkedIn posts because she writes the most thoughtful, eloquent, well-written, I feel like things that are in your head as marketers, she puts into beautiful poetry on LinkedIn posts. So if you haven't followed her yet, you definitely follow her and go scroll and have fun. It'll be like a binge of her content on LinkedIn. Welcome to the show, Kacie.
Wow, Jane, thank you. That is so nice.
It's so true. I feel every time you're like one of the few where I don't skim and then see if I want to read the whole thing. I read every word because it's just so well written.
So much to me. I'm just putting my thoughts out in the world. I'm a huge fan of this podcast. I'm a huge fan of you as true. But yeah, I'm a regular listener and I'm so honored to be here.
Yay. I'm so excited to have you on. We were chatting before we turned the mic on and hopefully we have time to record a full episode. If not, we'll have you back on for part 2 of the Kacie Show. But there's so much to dive into and we have to figure out which direction this goes in. So we'll see together. But I always start out with your journey into B2B marketing. So how you got to be at Sendoso and how you got into this world of B2B.
Yes, I will give us a very quick flyby. I have a secret past as a performing artist. So I was a country music artist. I was signed to a record deal with EMI Capital. Yeah.
How cool is that?
So people always ask me about this because it seems like a weird transition, but really early teenage years through my early 20s, I was touring and recording albums and recording videos for CMT. And I grew up really fast. And when I was 15, 16, and it's something that really taught me a lot about, I don't like to be marketed as a product. I don't enjoy being the product, but I got very obsessed with our small fan group. And as we toured with other artists, we would crash Keith Urban or Blake Shelton or some of the other artists on our label that were successful. We were touring overnight. And so how do you reach your fans and get them to mobilize to the places that you're going to be when you're touring so quickly every 24 hours? My record label was sending mail through the mail that didn't get there till we were gone a lot of the time. And there were some really antiquated marketing practices happening. And as a young, person who was very into the internet, I started building out our fan forum and trying to reach our fans in real time. And that's how I got obsessed with marketing, which took me into eventually realizing I love music, but I love it in my living room. But I'm really into this idea of how to connect people around the things that they are interested in and like-minded folks, bringing them together in community. So I got into B2C tech and worked for a couple companies that way in consumer tech, and then made my way into B2B, really pulling my experience from just reaching people in general into humanizing B2B, I think, a little bit.
What a cool story. And for all our listeners who are totally Googling you right now and looking up your songs.
Very embarrassing. Yes. You can find me. I look very different.
Did you have blonde hair? I'm so going to look this up
very
later.
Heavily highlighted hair. So
I can't picture that. I feel like you have a different color. Image of Kacie. I can't picture you being any other way. This will be fun.
Past version of Kacie.
Yeah, the many iterations. But super cool story. What do you think drew you eventually to B2B? And do you think you'll stay here? Is this the world for you?
I am lucky in that my current role at Sendoso sort of lets me sit. And I've worked in a lot of different spaces. I worked in hospitality, obviously music industry, and consumer tech. I worked at Roku, where it was really heavily about brand building. And I like B2B tech because it's a world where I feel like there's so much opportunity to learn from and pull in like consumer research and branding and the things that B2C are really good at. And we tend to get a little tripped up in more focused on the performance side or like the capture side or the hacking stuff side and forget that, yeah, we're selling into companies and accounts and teams and departments, but these are all just people. And
Yeah.
so I like the challenge of bringing that person to person connection to B2B because that's, I think, what resonates most with people, right? We all just want to work with and buy from and hang around
Yeah.
people that we like and trust and admire.
It's so true. Because I feel like we've been saying in B2B, it's human to human, like P to P and H to H for a long time, but not really doing anything different behind that phrase. So it's nice to see that more recently it's been about relationships and community and seeing that come back, probably especially after COVID, where everyone's
Yeah.
just like craving those relationships. Oh, cool.
I think it's great that's coming up more and people are thinking about it more and also getting a little bit realer. Just in the
Yes.
last year on LinkedIn, I feel like the way people are showing up is changing a bit.
So true. I was listening to a podcast right before we start talking, and somebody, I won't name names, maybe I will one day, and we'll have a friendly debate on LinkedIn. But he was saying in this show that he doesn't think LinkedIn is for personal posts and like it should remain super professional. And I was just like, hard disagree. He was like,
Yeah, no.
you'll never see on LinkedIn, oh, this is my kid graduating from kindergarten. And I was like, you will from me next year. I will definitely be tagging a graduation picture of my son because I want to know all facets of people. I want to know, okay, if like Kacie, we've become closer on LinkedIn and then in person meeting, and I'm learning that you were a country music star, right? Like learning all these fun facts about people and who they are beyond just their job and their title is so fascinating to me. And that's what I've loved about marketing and LinkedIn lately.
Why else would you be there, honestly? I'm like, I don't want to get to know people on a one-dimensional, robotic, transactional level. I
Just
have
trying to
zero
sell
interest.
us. Yeah, exactly. Like you don't want to feel sold all the time. Isn't that the key to good sales too? Is not feeling like you're being sold. It's just like getting to know people. And if it makes sense, you work together.
100%. Yeah.
So crazy. Yeah. Okay. Speaking of, from this, you are super known for ABM, as we're talking about, which is fully based on relationships and building those over time and longer sales cycles. There's so many ways I want to know like everything that you have on best practices and stuff, but we were touching on before we turned on the mics about how you've been talking to a lot of customers lately. As you've been posting on LinkedIn, more customers are asking for you to come in and talk to their teams. What kind of trends are you seeing in the world of ABM, ABX, and what struggles people are having or what's working, kind of both sides?
I think small side note, which I find really fascinating. I also automate LinkedIn connection requests with everyone who submits a demo request on our website. I do it myself manually. I just can't physically keep up. And so it's an automated touch, but it creates these human relationships where I get to person ask how it's going and how the demo flow went and how the sales cycle feels and then get to know those people. And so in that way, I also connect on I think a deeper level than just having someone go through a demo request and talk to sales. They get other people on our team who are in their corner. And that's been a really cool way for me to learn from those people as well. And it's a different relationship than just buying a transactional like we were talking about. But yeah, I have been both prospects and customers. I've been jumping on a lot of calls to discuss the things I'm most passionate about. And I'm seeing what sort of feels like a slight turning point where so many marketers have been under such pressure to deliver on pipeline at all costs, at any cost, and to deliver short-term results. And this is not new. We all know this, but I'm seeing this trend of of marketers and marketing leaders stepping up to take control and say, this is not the way we want to do this, and we're going to make change. And we want to do things the way that we know is best for the buyer and the customer and for people, in the old way of just measuring marketing versus sales generated, or inbound versus outbound, or first touch versus last touch. That's such a limited view that doesn't actually support the experiences and the journey that we know we need to create for people to actually consider us and connect with us as people, as a brand, as a product. And so I'm hearing these trends of, we know that we've measured it and we know that direct mail works, and sending like beautiful things to someone's doorstep that are very thoughtful and considered or very highly personalized, and using sales and marketing together and the power of connecting with people across multiple touch points all at one time, instead of just isolated interactions with a person or an account, is so much more powerful. And so marketers are trying desperately to get buy-in around this and to prove it out. And more folks are looking at like trends over time and pattern matching, or looking at multi-touch attribution. And so I get a lot of calls of people asking me, how did we get the buy-in to blow up the last touch model and blow up the high volume lead gen model that I pretty much turned completely on its head at Sendoso? Because a lot of people are dealing with that still, unfortunately.
Yeah. I know we probably can't cover it all today, but do you have a few tips on how you guys did that? Where I think you've mentioned in the past a couple tools that you use for that, but just tracking all of the touches along the way to know as a marketer where you should be allocating your budget and where you should be spending dollars and resources and time. Where do you begin?
Yeah. So I think probably the most pivotal thing I did coming into my role, and I will say easier coming into a role because you can set the expectation coming in that this is what I need to do and this is what I'm going to go take care of in order to do my job successfully. It's harder when you've been there a while or you're trying to do it retroactively. But I think the most important thing you can do is get your finance team and your CFO and your CEO and CRO or head of sales aligned with you. And that takes a lot of time sometimes because they're used to thinking a different way or having metrics presented to them that actually tell a different story. And so there's almost a branding shift you need to do around how marketing is perceived and how sales thinks about that partnership, and how finance thinks about, they're probably thinking about first or last touch attribution is the most common, right? And so they're looking at things and coming to conclusions that are going to clash with what you want them to think. Yes. And so I came in and started with, hey, let's look at the last touch attribution together. Let's look at, what do you think would happen if I decided to only make all of my decisions on this last touch that says web direct? If all I said to you was, we should just, push the button to get more web direct. Like, how would we know what to invest in or not, what to do from there? I think most reasonable people hear that and go, that makes no sense. Obviously, there was something that came before that made someone think of you, type you in and go there. That's just common sense. I started with the thing that was most obvious and then went from there to try and explain, okay, and also if we're not investing in organic channels and we're not showing up on LinkedIn where our buyers, we don't invest as much in events or webinars if our sales team isn't as aligned. And I had to bring in a tool. There are a number of tools because I couldn't rebuild my system that quickly. We're a very small team. We did do some cleanup of the way that we report on stages of the buying journey. And then I brought in a tool called Hockey Stock. There are a few of these. There's Dream Data, Hockey Stock. There's a cool tool called Upside that's in development right now. And then there's also other attribution models that you can look at. I am a big fan of using as many as you can because this is not easy. And so if you plug in your data into a multi-touch model and you use a dashboard like we do, you can see sort of the journey and the touch points and where direct mail is influencing and accelerating a deal and where organic search is the touch point before all of those people typed that in and typed your name in and went to your website or went to whatever page. And you can pipe in your programs and track like how are those impacting, and you can see this like beautiful symphony, right, of things coalescing. You can actually see like ebbs and flows of where sales leaned in with you and what that did. And so it visualizes the story in a way that I was struggling with articulating myself. And I think you don't want to get too caught up in that like granular attribution, but you do want to be able to say, hey, I know with some certainty that when I am sending gifts, when sales is engaging above the line folks in this account and my BDRs are engaging below the line folks in this account, and we have invited them to an event and they've attended a webinar, that accelerates the deal hugely. And it's usually a bigger deal because we know more about those people. We understand them better. So why wouldn't we do those things? But I have customers who aren't even allowed, they're not allowed to have more than one touch point with an account because you think it's a waste at their company and it's redundant.
How does that, they're not allowed to have more than one touch point?
They're not supposed to have more than, so if someone like saw an ad, that's supposed to be the only thing they spent money on that touched that account, which is as impossible.
Yeah.
It's really possible.
I think Hockey Stack, in one of their reports, what was the number of touch points that they reported are needed before you close a deal?
Gosh,
it was like something thousands.
Yeah, a lot. A lot. And depending on who you're selling into, if you're selling into JP Morgan Chase and Walmart, so many touch points, longer deal cycle, way more people in that buying committee, and then people you may, outside of it, you may want to influence so that they're talking about you to the decision makers. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of bringing your sales team closer with you and actually teaching them about this stuff so that they are in it with you, and marketing's coming closer to sales, sales is coming closer to marketing, and then doing away with this like constant debate of who touched what and which one of those points was the most important point, so it should get credit.
Yes, the word that I hate, credit. It is, because you're together. Like, I've never understood the sales marketing finger pointing of, but sales reached out to this. It was a sales-driven lead, and then marketing did. It's, who cares? Marketing sometimes they do get commission, but typically marketing doesn't even get commission. I don't care who gets credit for things. I just want to see pipeline growing. That's what I care about. So we should be on the same page here.
Exactly. Yeah, the best way I found to do this is just to raise my hand and say, hi, I own all pipeline. Like, we're just going to measure total qualified pipeline. I'm the accountable person for that, but everyone needs to help. Here's what I need from them. Here's what I need from our head of sales. Here's what I need from our BDRs, who on my team, they report into marketing. On many other teams, they don't. You need to all just be on the same page and have the spirit of, we're doing this together, and we know that's the best way for us to accomplish our shared goals. I couldn't find another way other than to say, I will just be the one. If it doesn't work, if it does work, I'm the one you come to. And I'm seeing more and more CMOs do this because I think it's hard otherwise to get out of that credit battle. And then I just report on, here's the state of pipeline. We're tracking ahead, and we're seeing that inbound and outbound are tracking according to what we projected coming in from those channels. And then we're looking at like the program performance within that as a marketing team as well. Obviously, like, you got to have some eyes on what's working and what's not. And we're looking at conversion. And qualified pipeline for us is 2 meetings in. There's been a call and another call, and we know for sure that there's. So yeah, I think so many marketing teams are just like losing hope and momentum because they're getting blocked in these ways that are just so wasteful, and told like they're demotivated to do the right things because they know they're going to have to argue, and they're going to have to go through opportunities one by one and look at the activity in every Salesforce like instance. And you're
currently
like,
there.
Yeah. It's so painful.
Yes. The dream of this visual that you paint. I feel like offline, I would love to see like a snapshot of what this looks like, so I can put on my vision board for 2025 of what we're going to do at Dextra.
Yeah, I think we're not such a tough problem to solve. Obviously, what I've got is not some sort of magic solution, but I do think there's a point at which, if you're leading marketing, you just have to put your foot down. Like you just have to say, I'm not going to do it this way anymore. Here are the reasons why. If you trust me, we need to change the way we think about this. Because once we did that, and I think we were very backwards originally, where we were prioritizing volume and MQLs that were just very broad definition of what was ready for sales. And marketing was being rewarded for really bad behavior and really poor quality, and then defending that despite knowing that it was bad. And no one likes that.
And that's where the sales marketing rift occurs too. Because it's, look, we have this amazing volume, but nothing's closing because it's crap. And that's what you're focusing on, the wrong numbers. Fascinating.
Yeah. And I think the other thing we're doing at Sendoso is I ask everyone I meet, like, how do you decide on your target accounts? Because this fascinates me. A lot of companies will just have sales pluck them, you know, out of, here's the ones I want. And
I always wonder that.
Static. Like it just stays static. So we just still want these ones. There's a list. We do it backwards. So marketing creates a list based on fit, intent signals, what we've seen happening with those accounts, what we see happening inside our customer portfolio. We're trying to pattern match and look at where are we having success and what types of companies are expanding and staying with us. And then we pick also a couple of lookalike industries where we see some like mini traction, and we'll pull that in. And we have target accounts on the new business side and the expansion side. It's all lumped together for us, and our BDRs and our AEs pair on those together. It's all pipeline, right? It's a little easier if it's just like total qualified pipeline. Y'all get it all the ways we can, do the right thing for the right reason. And so we're trying, this is not perfect yet, but we're trying to figure out how to actually have these sort of like proactive notifications when, say, we have 5 large veterinary customers and then 6 more come in and they all close and they're all, you know, really healthy looking. That should notify us and tell us this is a really interesting set. And if we're not working it already, it should be considered for how we're prioritizing what our BDRs and AEs pair on. And in my dreams, Jane, we can use the tools we have and some AI augmentation and actually spin up the mini pages that are targeted and personalized for those folks, and little mini trainings for sales and CX that say, this is who we're talking to, here's what they care about, and here's why. And so we're trying to figure that out. And some of the folks I've talked to are doing this too. I saw someone say recently on LinkedIn, I think this week, that personalization doesn't. And I really heavily, strongly disagree with that.
I saw that post too. Yes.
Everything I've seen shows me that it does matter. And in fact, the more personalized, even down to the person you can get, the better the result is going to be and the stronger the connection. But yeah.
So fascinating. First, you should take like what you were just talking about in your dreams and put that on your vision board for Sendoso. I'm going to my vision board is where you are now. The next year, maybe we'll go back. But you're also, I feel like I keep writing down just questions that I want to ask based on what you're saying. And then you go right into it. So kudos for being right in my head and going exactly where I wanted to ask.
Mind connection.
Yeah, it's so funny. One question, based on having this visualization and being able to look at multi-touch attribution and seeing these ebbs and flows, is there anything that you've identified and cut that, okay, this is not working, I don't see it influencing anything?
Yes. When I started, we were dumping money into paid search and like dumping it. And there was a moment where, I turned it all off and then I turned it back on and it looked like it was doing something, and we got really excited. And so we turned the dial a little bit more. And then I got this whole setup and started digging into it and looking at it more rigorously. And at this point, I have just been like, there is almost no reason for me to spend on this whatsoever. I look at it from a competitive and new industry standpoint, as I'm going to invest a little bit in awareness with the segments of folks who, don't know about us. And then there's a little bit of just, I want to show up where our competitors are spending to grab that space just as a signpost. But it's not doing much for us, honestly. I feel like it's like this safety blanket that a lot of marketers
100%.
cling to. And then you hear everyone
Guilty.
say they're still doing it. Me too. I was still doing it until this week. I was like, why are we doing this? Let's just turn it off. Like,
put those dollars somewhere where it's worth more. Yeah. Wow. You're right. I feel like even as you're saying that, part of me, like my fear flag goes up internally, and I'm like, but turn it all the way off. Like, can't we just put a little over here? Because it's scary, because it's something I think in all our years of marketing, search was like the first digital thing.
Yes,
right?
It's terrifying. And every CEO, I swear, every CEO is for some reason obsessed with that and asks about it all the time. So yeah, I think everything changes over time, right? We've been doing this for long enough that we're seeing that all these other opportunities to reach people are opening up that are in some cases a lot better. And then some of the older, like some people consider gifting and direct mail very antiquated, but people are doing it in these new ways that are revolutionizing the way that you reach people in a personalized, like direct manner that's not digital. And we've found that a lot of the stuff works for everyone else, works for us too. It's not surprising that meeting people face to face and fostering networking opportunities that are not transactional, that feel good and connect people together that are like-minded, that works really well. And then you can get to know someone on a deeper level, their challenges, their team, what's going on with them, and come back in a way that actually does add value instead of just like throwing things in their face about your product and your features. We do a lot of like thinking about what are the types of themes and the types of pains that we're seeing with revenue teams, sales and marketing more specifically, and how do we actually add value? And I know that sounds so trite, but like on a level where we're not just constantly talking about Sendoso, but we're talking about the things that matter to the people that we help. And then it gives us a door into having bigger discussions that are more meaningful instead of just, you should send gifts to people. Like, that's not resonant and people don't connect with that.
Yeah. You know what I think helps a lot? I feel like when you talk about what you do and Sendoso and it's just so clear, like the passion and the care that you have for it. I feel like that is key in the delivery of any marketing for any company, right? When you're talking to your customers and you're creating like value props and having these conversations with your ICP, you have to care. Like, there has to be this genuine feel to it and not just like, okay, how do I get them to sign up for a meeting? Like that kind of motive. You have to actually be invested in it and care.
Yeah, I think the best in sales, the best in marketing are those who aren't trying to sell first.
Yeah.
They're trying to understand and listen first. And then they're looking to be helpful. Just be helpful.
Yeah.
It's a good way to just be a good person too.
That's true too. I'm seeing so many crossover lately between marketing and life wisdom that just like, if you learn this thing, it's like, this is it's what you're not supposed to do in LinkedIn posts, right? Like, I proposed to my fiance and this is what I learned about B2B marketing. But ever since that post, I see it all the time. And I'm like, this happened in life and it's exactly what we need to do for work for this. It's funny how there's that crossover.
Yeah.
Just be a good person.
Be a good person. At the heart of marketing is literally just connecting with other people. That's what we do.
True.
And so I think we forget it. Like we get all locked up in like these attribution battles and proving our worth and proving that what we do matters and being constantly asked by your CEOs and every other person in the company to do 500 weird things that occurred to someone that day because everyone has a crazy idea for marketing. It's so distracting. It distracts from the core, which is we're just trying to authentically connect and resonate with other people. There are really simple, good ways to do that, to show people that you've heard them, you understand them, you care about them. It is the reason why, sending someone a gift or a note, especially handwritten, something that has weight and feels good and arrives on their doorstep, or shows that you listened and you know that their kid is sick or they just moved or whatever, that cuts through the bullshit and shows that you're just paying attention to them. And here's what you heard.
Yeah, it's so true. Because Somebody, I'm prepping for a podcast I'm going to be a guest on in a few weeks. And one of the questions is what I often ask people, like, how did you get into marketing? And I never really think about that myself, but I realized talking to the host of the show that it's the people. Like, people have always been like my draw. I love talking to people. It's probably why I love doing the show. Like, just conversations with people that are authentic and natural and not trying to having an ulterior motive. At the end of the day, we do need to sell, right? There's revenue involved, but it's if you're having those authentic conversations and creating relationships, that's what I love about marketing. It's so true.
Yeah, and you're so good at it because you are authentic, and then you magnetize people to you that are attracted to that. And then people all can learn from each other. That's the most beautiful part of what we get to do.
Yes. Teaching each other. I love that your customers are bringing you in to shed some light on what's working for you. It's so cool. The marketing to marketers thing has its perks for sure.
I'm so lucky, to be honest. I've done this job where I'm not marketing to my people, my role.
Yeah.
And that's also fun and in a different way where it's like you're learning a new language and you're learning a new challenge. And then you have to rely a lot more on the folks who do speak that language and are a CTO or an engineer or whatever. But I am now the expert that gets called in, which has never been the case. And it's a whole different level of customer connection that I get to have as a result.
Are you comfortable getting on the B2B stage again in a different phase? Like, I feel like from country music star to B2B star, I feel like you're.
Oh man, I think I'm very sensitive to like the reason why I even show up anywhere is because I'm trying to make people feel less alone. I feel like a lot of marketers feel really isolated and alone and hopeless a lot of the time. Yeah. And I have been made to feel less alone by the people who were willing to work in public and show their failures and let the guard down and say, this is really hard. And today, I don't know if I can do it. And just hearing from other people that they're dealing with the same stuff, that maybe they solved it, maybe there's some hope, and also that you're understood. And I've been so fortunate to have people like you and others in our space who understand what I'm going through and that I can learn from and ask questions and just say, is this crazy? Or have you tried this? Or have you done this? Or I'm stuck.
Yes.
I think that's like the most important thing you can utilize events and networking and marketing and LinkedIn to do.
Yes, for sure. If anybody listening to this does not have their own little micro community that they've built, and I'm not talking about like a big Slack group, those are awesome in their own way, but a little WhatsApp group or a text chain or something, build your own, be the one to start it. And next time you go to an event, if you click with somebody that's in a similar role, add them to a WhatsApp group and get that going, because it has been so helpful. And just, okay, I'm not crazy. This is not how it should be. Or we need to test this out, or we do not need to test this out. Just getting those gut checks is so helpful.
It's been life-saving. It's like magical.
It is. So cool. I love chatting with you. I want to get back to gifting and not to make this like a Sendoso sales thing. Don't worry, everybody. But if I'm fascinated by this because everything comes full circle, right? Like flares are back and like rise jeans are back, which I'm not happy about. Like all these things come back. And direct mail, I remember 20 years ago, 15 years ago, like designing postcards that were like super corny and like getting that out, getting the mailing list. And now things have come back, but it's just in a better way in that fashion, right? So gifting and things like that. From what you've experienced and with customers and how you all are leveraging it, is there like a great time and a way to incorporate gifting? And what have you seen like when it's going wrong? Because I'm sure there's many ways that are just like tacky and not a good gifting experience.
Yeah. I think people have all sorts of different preconceived notions when you say direct mail or when you say gifting. And I run into a lot of people who even just don't think it's possible because we work remotely now and they think you have to have every single person's address to mail stuff to them. And so I'll start by saying, like, you should decide if that's something you even want to explore. But if you do not need to have everyone's address, we live in a world now where you can just use address confirmation and the address doesn't get stored and they can just fill it in. And those have very high response rates. People like to receive gifts, and so they'll fill it in. I happen to have data that proves that does work. But so I think the other biggest problem with doing this poorly is it becomes put in the transactional bucket. And so it becomes generic and people start to think about it in a volume play way without the care. And they start thinking about trading things. So let me send you this for that. We've all probably gotten an email that's, let me give you this whatever for a meeting.
Yeah.
And I don't think that works as well. I know that doesn't work as well as adding value, doing the work to provide something of value, whether it's a webinar, whether you saw them post something on LinkedIn and you're commenting, you have something to offer or to help with. And then if you're reaching out to someone, whether it's warm or cold, you're always leaving the gift as an aside. It's, oh, and by the way, or you're not trading, you're not bartering. Yeah. And I think outbound tends to go in this direction because outbound is inherently a volume strategy. Do our own outbound that's automated in a lot of ways and AI augmented, but the core of it is that it is highly personalized. It's one-to-many personalized for each human. The message is personalized, the gift is personalized. That's all automated, but we spent a long time building it and building those prompts and building our AI-powered smart sending so that it's high quality and it feels good. And we know it feels good because people send us messages saying that they loved it. So that can be done. I think there's different levels of this. So if you're thinking about an outbound motion, typically you're going to be sending links to a gift in some sort of digital communication. If you're, trying to get people into a webinar or engage them after a webinar, typically digital. But when you're looking at an ABM strategy and you're thinking about how do I break into these accounts with longer deal cycles, that's when you might start to think about how do I deliver something to these people's doorstep that is going to really be memorable and resonant and make them recall this and retell it and actually have an emotional reaction. And that can be all over the place. I think, people get tripped up on what is the concept of a gift is just you're giving someone something without asking for something in return. And it should matter. It should be something that is meaningful to them. Yeah. And so I was talking last night with a bunch of women about this because I think typically if you're gifting to women with children, you're thinking about how do I celebrate this woman and the immense amount of work she's doing and gift something that's going to make her life easier or make her feel better or special or a treat, something like that. And men, we have a slightly different tactic for gifting sometimes with men where we're going to gift something for your kids that relates to you. So get them the mini sports uniform that matches the bigger sports uniform, or get the dog something that matches what the guy is wearing. I think the trick to it is just thinking about what matters to this person. We also do a lot of sending to a man a gift, where he can do a recipient gift choice for their wife. So make the man the hero. You've been traveling, you've been gone at conferences all week. Here's something for your wife. Go ahead and just give her the gift. So you have to know your audience, right? Yeah. What is going on with them? What do they care about? But if you're just doing Starbucks gift cards, you're getting the point because it feels very generic, very the care isn't there. And then there's a lot of marketing psychology around what people will give heavier weight to when they're engaging across the internet and they're engaging across the world. We tend to prioritize and give more weight to things that seem like they were a higher investment. So they required more care, more time, more thought. Yeah. That shouldn't be shocking, right? When you receive a gift and it seems like someone just bought you something out of the supermarket, gift card section, it feels bad. Yeah. Versus if someone gives you something, even if it's super cheap and they know the kind of flowers that you like, or they know that the kind of gum you like, or it's just an extra thought, that can feel really good.
So true. Okay, this is so an aside, but it's tied. So this makes me think back to when my husband and I were first starting to date. and I didn't think he liked me. This is God. How long
That's
ago
hilarious.
now? 20 years ago, like forever we've been together. But we were at a bar. We're coworkers back in the day, and we were at happy hour. And I was about to leave because I was like, he doesn't like me. I'm just going to go home. And then he ordered a round of Cafe Patron shots. And I was like, he remembered my favorite shot. This is back in the day. I will never do that now. But I was like, just the thought. And that's how I learned, like, oh, they're like, he's paying attention.
He's paying
like
attention.
That. So like that little thing, it wasn't necessarily a gift. I guess it was, but like, it was a thoughtful piece.
That's such a good example.
Yeah.
That's
so funny.
Example.
It's funny that popped in.
I love that.
I wonder, so a few things from what you just said. When it's a trade versus a gift is such a good distinction. Because I do the Starbucks gift cards, but I do that for if I'm asking them for feedback on something or like time to fill out a quick survey, things like that. Because I feel like it's their time. I want to show that we respect their time and thank them. So it's just a quick exchange, and it is an exchange, right? It's like a trade there. But proper gifting should be more of like a congrats, a thank you, a PS, like here, nothing needed in return. It's actually a gift, right? Do I have that?
Yeah, I think it's nice to thank people for their time. And I don't really have a problem if you're asking someone if you're like, hey, could you take this survey? Could you give us feedback? We'd love to throw this in for enjoy a coffee on us while you do it. I think that's totally fine. There are multiple points in a customer journey where this makes sense. And we have customers using it across all of those points. So from the first engagement with someone, you met them at an event, they maybe gave you insight into something that you were struggling with. I think we probably use this way more loosely than everyone else because we're so used to it. It's our bread and butter. But I will just send people little things and just be like, you mentioned that your baby likes this character or whatever. I'll just send people things like a little connect and be like, I loved meeting you. Thank you for answering my question. Thank you for telling me how you unblocked this. And then you just don't ask for anything, right? You just do it because you would do that with a friend. Yeah. And then maybe they will become your friend, which is extra bonus points for everyone. But you can do that across, I'm a BDR trying to schedule a meeting, and I'm showing that I paid attention, and I'm going to send a gift. I'm not going to ask for the meeting in exchange, but I'm going to show them that I did my diligence and I understand them. And then our AEs, when we're multi-threading, we'll look at a whole team and look at how do we send something to all those people that shows that we're paying attention and we care, with a note that shows we understand the challenges they're dealing with. And then across the marketing touch points, there's all these places where someone engages with something or they attend something or you notice maybe that intent scores change, right? And so like more people in an account are looking at certain things that tell you they're probably thinking about you. And if you're not asking for, hey, give me something in return for this thing, it pretty much always is a good time to be like, hey, I saw your talk, I saw your LinkedIn post, I saw this, I talked to this other person on your team, and just send something that's thoughtful. This accelerates deals exponentially because you're cutting straight through please fill out this form, please book a meeting, please become a pipeline number. You're changing that whole exchange.
That's so smart. It's all about strategy and being thoughtful and intentional. So did you ever read the book Giftology?
Yeah, he is actually an advisor of Sendoso.
How funny. What a small world. I didn't know that, I swear. I read that 10 years ago or so, and it totally changed my mindset on gifting, where I think one of the first rules is like not swag. So not with your logo on it, and because that people won't use. But if you give them like a really good quality chef's knife, it's going to be there in their kitchen, and they're always going to remember when you use that knife, like that, who gave it to them. So cool.
Yeah, I think the other thing is that I want to make sure I mention is you have to tie it back somehow. So you can't just be sending people like shoes or something, and there's no wrap back into, hey, I saw this, I understood that you're thinking about this, or this is your challenge, and I would like to offer you either this report, this blog post, this something that's going to tie it back and give them a sense of like, why should they care? Why should they think about you? When should they think about you? And that doesn't necessarily have to happen on every single touch point. But if you're doing a direct mail campaign and you're investing a lot of time and effort into sending people a really well curated box or package or report or magazine or whatever, our customers do really creative things. You got to make sure that they know why you sent them that. Otherwise, they're just like, this is great. I forgot.
Thanks.
Instantly why this was sent to me.
Yeah, so true. This comes back to just building those relationships and paying attention and being a good human and just being thoughtful and taking your time versus the volume play that doesn't really go anywhere nowadays.
Yep.
So exactly. Cool. If to wrap up, I would love to ask one more question. What is one thing you would tell yourself going back in time, singing country music on stage in the tour bus? What would you go back and tell that Kacie with everything that you know now, having gone through everything in your career? Would it even be B2B marketing specific? Probably not, because that probably wasn't on your radar back in the day.
No, I don't think so. I think probably the thing that I know now that I wish I had known all of that whole time is that the things that made me, like I was a young singer coming into the music industry, and my parents are from Kentucky and Texas, but I was born in California. So I wasn't quote unquote Southern. And I felt like an outsider a little bit in the country music scene, even though I grew up on an apple ranch.
Another fun fact.
Grew up on an apple farm.
How cool.
Yeah. My grandparents farmed apples and then my parents took it over. But yeah, cool. That sort of continued. I think a lot of people deal with this through their careers and through their lives where you feel like, oh, I don't know the same things that everyone around me knows. Going into tech from the music industry, I felt like such an outsider, and I felt like I needed to hide that I was a singer because no one would respect me and they would think I was really stupid. And I didn't know the terminology and I didn't know the acronyms and I didn't understand content delivery and the back end of the internet because of course I didn't, right? Like I had to learn that. And what made me special and interesting and valuable at that company was that I didn't know those things and that I knew other things that the people around me did not and were not good at. And I could bring those into a meeting and I could sit at the executive table and I could say, I actually disagree with that. And here's why, because I come from a completely different perspective. And that's really powerful and valuable, but it's so scary, especially as you're going through your career trying to prove your value and you feel misunderstood.
Yeah.
It's all those things that that give us a different perspective, that make us different in the room. That's why we're there. And that's our superpower. And that's what we should lean into and not try and hide and not be ashamed of. And I feel like every young girl would benefit from knowing that earlier.
Yes. Embrace what makes you different. It's so true. I think we're always, and by the way, goosebumps, I feel like several times in this conversation, but I feel like we often are so hard on ourselves and we think we should know everything. And I feel like I mentioned my husband like 5 times this episode. I never talk about him, but he's at a show right now, like a conference, and he's speaking in front of a huge group.
Oh, wow.
And he messaged me and he was like, oh, like everybody here knows like all this stuff. Like he was getting a little imposter syndrome. And I was like, other stuff. Like I said, all these other things. So you don't have to know what they know. It's great for you to collab. And now you're going to know that stuff. But you knew all these other things. And that's what you can hone in on. Exactly. And it's so true. It's what we have to do.
I think also being in person with other marketers and like meeting you and having these sorts of conversations is so validating and so helpful. And being able to let the guard down of, I don't have to show up as like this perfect, strong, fully 100% capable, confident, successful person all the time. That's not what's needed. Actually, people just need to see each other as humans. And for so long, I thought that like to sit at the, board meeting table and to sit with the other executives who were largely just all men in tech when I started out. I had to be scary. I had to never have an emotion and never show I didn't understand and never give a crack of humanity.
So true.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
It is. Another thing to tell our younger selves, right? I had the same thing where I always had this vision. I'm still working on this, but I always had this vision of what executive presence means, right? Because I'm very casual. Like I speak casually. I don't speak super formally. I don't have a horrible vocabulary, but I don't pull out massive words, and I'm always me. So my demeanor doesn't change that much from the boardroom to talking in the podcast to talking in person. Maybe slight changes, but I don't even know if that. And I've always worried about that in executive meetings because I'm not wearing this like super buttoned up, perfect executive vision outfit. And then the way I speak is very casual, but you don't have to be that way. You just breaking the mold of what that is.
Excellent. Yeah. I think there's so much misinformation around executive presence. I actually hate that word and have so many feelings around it. Where, people are taught that they should speak in these like formal ways and keep their guard up and smile less. And not be as transparent. And I don't think any of those things have ever worked, to be honest. I really don't. And I'm biased because I am more like you. I say what I think. I am not very formal. I don't want to be. I don't want to work in environments where I feel like I have to act like a human robot executive. And teams resonate with that either. They want to work with people that are human and authentic and that they feel safe with, and they can call up and say that they're having a problem or there's a major failure, and that they're going to meet you as a human in that. And I've been through so many different, and probably you have too, all those Harvard Business Review like things and recommendations and reports and like tests and leadership styles, and it's just like trips you out. You're like, how am I supposed to be? I'm not supposed to be like this. We are supposed to be like this.
Yes, just double down on who you are and embrace it all. You said something that I always try to think about if I made a sticker for this episode, which one day I swear I will. What is like the phrase that I would put on a sticker? I'll make it happen. I'll get someone on Fiverr. But it's embrace what makes you different is totally your thing. I love that. That's so true. And double down on it.
I love that's the theme of this. I think that's so important.
Yay. Kacie, thank you so much for this episode and for going over with me. I appreciate it. I feel like we should totally have a part 2 and part 3 and roundtables, etc. But thank you for being raw and vulnerable and sharing some stories and also giving us tactical advice at the same time. So thank you.
What a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here with me.
And if anybody wants to connect with you, which I'm sure you will get after this, where should they find you?
Come find me on LinkedIn. That is the best place to reach me.
I'm waiting for someone to be like TikTok, put that in, but LinkedIn for sure. And seriously, everyone follow her. Yeah. I think I have 2 posts on TikTok and it's sad. I can't get into it.
It may be the next frontier. I'm hearing that
one day,
but I'm still in my LinkedIn era.
Me too. I like it here. I don't want it to change yet. But everybody, thank you for listening and for joining the show today. If you liked the episode, I'm sure you did because Kacie's wonderful. Please share with a friend, share on LinkedIn, tag us, and rate and review because it helps the show get more ears, more eyes. So thank you, everyone. See you next time.